All right. Yes, it's working. Welcome everybody to another Climate Cafe Green Blue on this Tuesday night. We're talking about water, a lot of green blue infrastructure, spatial planning, floating solar panels, infiltrating pavement, bioswales, one of our favorite topics. And we've been doing this for many years now, over 5 years, I think. And we're happy that we've got another great guest speaker. But I am Sydney Stacks from the municipality of Nijmegen. By the way, I'm doing this with Floris Bogart here as well. We started this Climate Cafe together, and we have many, many speakers already recorded, over 200 episodes, and another great one today. But I won't talk too much about that because the introduction can be done to another participant or actually also a moderator for Climate Cafe. Shanae.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Shanae Turan from the Hansa, and I'm particularly excited about today's presentation. Özlem is an old colleague of mine, and she's an urban planner and researcher specializing in participatory urban research and collaborative urban planning, just development, and the management of sustainable cities. So today she's going to give us some insight into environmental challenges, climate change, and how all of this relates to young people. Yes. Özlem, do you want to share your presentation with us? And maybe just introduce yourself if you want to, give some more background.
Yeah. First, the quiz out, because I am always clumsy. I don't want to cause any trouble for myself and for you. Let me share my presentation first. Is it visible?
Yes,
Perfect. Yeah. Let's put that one around. Oops. Yeah. Thank you, Shanae, for having me. I'm pretty excited, always excited about talking about my research, but particularly talking about young people that anyone can relate to, because we were once a kid and then we had our youth. And I hope that this video recording will be reaching also to young people and give some context about how we adults understand their participation, their activism, and their challenges. Before going into what I do as a researcher, that is actually related to empowering young people for the sustainable futures, and that will be the main discussion points within this presentation. But to be able to empower them, I will be talking about the challenges, what are the background information, and what are their living experience actually that I learned through research. So I want to start with a story, how I ended up with working young people. So I started my PhD in 2017. That time I was particularly interested in doing something with participatory research, but I didn't know which group, but definitely underrepresented group. And I was looking for focus group participants. And I end up watching the World Climate Summit 2019. And there, Greta gave a really nice speech, which is really direct, even confrontational. And she uses phrases like, "How dare you?" To challenge the leaders gathered around there. And her presentation was actually giving the urgency with the scientific facts. And she was addressing greenwash, moral failure, inaction by the adults. And she was mentioning equity, justice, and generational responsibility, not only young people's responsibility, but giving the lenses on the adults' responsibility, and also hope, creating via the public pressure. And so I hooked up by that. And then later on, I continue watching and following the climate summits. And in 2021, I end up watching the youth committee meeting. And the message there that young people were saying, we are bringing our own chairs to the table. If there is table for us. If there is no chair, no worries. We will be having our folding chairs and we will be adding ourselves into the discussion. And that is a commonly used quotation by one of the US Congress member and appears in various forms of activist rhetoric. And it was nice to see there. So this is the background, the context for my research. And maybe before going into participation and activism, maybe I should give a background how I define participation. So I define participation as an active, meaningful, and inclusive involvement of individuals, no matter their age, but they should have right to influence through that participation to the policies, plans, designs that shape their daily living. So after watching these two events, I ended up working with children 0 to 18. So maybe I should talk about how you can collaborate with age 0, like babies, right? Then you work with their representatives, which are their moms and fathers. And I continue researching after the 0 to 18. I collaborate with youth too, 16 to 24 years old. And I commonly use participation, co-creation, co-design as the concept and methodology. And for the aim of creating sustainable and just cities altogether, not just for them, but with them. And later on, I got interested in youth activism that I will define it later, but that activism involves individual daily actions and can be also collective activism. So I want to go into the challenges, but we all know the global challenges. Yes, they are there. For example, globalization impacts local sustainability, increasing waste, pollution, and resource depletion. And another fact that cities contribute 70% of the global CO2 emissions. And also young people are worried, yeah, and we hear them through activism, through participation, but at the same time, when it comes to young people's participation and institutional participation and agency, and we say, hey, hold on, wait a minute, that could say that we don't know how to include them. That is one thing. Sometimes there are some power relations we don't. By the way, when I say we, I refer to adults, and I represent an individual that is adult today also. So power relations can be part of this hold on moment. So I came with facts from what I learned from young people from the Netherlands and also Turkey. For example, Dutch teenagers recognize the importance of local climate adaptation, but often feel overwhelmed by the scale and the complexity of climate change. This is one fact that we learn. And young people worry about the future of their cities and communities, fearing the impact of extreme weather, rising temperatures, and environmental degradation. And many young people express internal challenges such as anxiety and helplessness due to the magnitude of environmental issues. And specifically, teenagers in Groningen highlighted the gap between recognizing the importance of climate action and feeling empowered to act upon it. And these goes on, and we will be, I will be sharing some findings from some of my projects too. When we say we need young people's participation and agency in decision making, why it does matter is another thing that maybe briefly should be introduced. Young people have unique perspectives, not only for themselves, but for everyone, that they bring fresh, innovative perspectives to urban planning as well as climate action, often identify issues adults can overlook easily. And their participation leads to more inclusive and sustainable cities. And as well as through participation and enhanced agency, young people can foster critical thinking, creativity, and problem-solving skills. And young people who engage in climate matters develop a sense of agency and responsibility. And this goes to the empowerment for the young people. Before going into how we can empower young people in urban decision making, I want to talk about barriers, because these are the building blocks to address along the way to enable their participation. And I use big numbers there because the list goes long, and I did a selection of 4 of them with a supporting theory, how to address it. Because of that, I use big numbers for your attention, actually. So the first and the most important one is against the institutional participation of young people is the lack of responsive legislation. And so I have an example from my thesis, actually. This is a historic view of when participation is included in the supranational policy making. As you can see here, it started with 1924, and that was around the wartime, and it was all about protecting young people. But later on, when with the Human Rights Declaration or political rights and economic rights, till the Children's Rights Convention, till the 1989, there is no mention about the right of the participation of young people. And the earlier policies always focus on protection and vulnerability and not participation. And this actually caused by the debate on protection versus participation, and due to the events like the World War. And if we go back to that delayed recognition, when we talk about urban policies like new urban agenda or sustainable development goals, they do promote age and gender responsive planning, particularly, but they fail to address specific needs for young people to participate. And when they talk about capacity building programs for local governments to be able to help young people to participate, still they ignore the capabilities of young people. So we can say that existing policies are fragmented and inconsistent, and children's rights to participate are not explicitly legislated. And this is also connected to conceptualization of young people in these policy-making documents too, because usually children conceptualize as vulnerable groups. And this conceptualization always overlooks children's unique capabilities and agency. What we say unique what we mean when we say unique capabilities that we can understand through the theory of beings versus becomings. So children constitute a new, unique and heterogeneous category with evolving capabilities. So we can't compare the skills of 18 years old with a toddler. So that because of that, accepting every group within the same skill set, mainstream children's rights discourses are dominated by vulnerability and protection tropes. So accordingly, adults commonly recognize children as becomings opposed to beings. So like capturing them as in their age group and the skill set. So in practice also happening mostly, children are conceptualized as innocent victims of political life rather than the agents of political change because of their non-voting status. So I want to say a little bit about the non-voting status of children. That book came into my life when I was doing my PhD, but unfortunately it was only available in German language. So, and AI wasn't available that much to translate, instant translate for excerpts of the book. But recently there's a translation. So I would say I worship this book because that book gives 3 main points and justifies beautifully why we need to give rights, voting rights for children. So in short, the book says children's suffrage would help ensure the politicians take children's concerns with equal seriousness. So that means that we middlemen, the adult middlemen doing research and doing sometimes activism for the participatory right of young people, that we don't have to be there. So if we institutionalize and embed voting rights for children, they will be actually giving their views directly. They won't be needing us extra effort to support them. I'm not saying that we shouldn't, we should, yes. Even though they do have the vote, when they do have the voting rights, we will be helping them for sure. But with the voting rights, laws concerning children then can be made through the specific concerns that young people would induce in the lawmaking and policy making, because the laws concerning children are usually made primarily with adults' interests in mind and also from the adult-dominated perspectives. So this is the first one. The second one, children's right to vote is a matter of democratic justice, building on the concept of democracy, that those impacted by the policies deserve the right to make their views on them heard. And the third point, and which is actually what I will be highlighting today, that the contrary to widely held assumptions, children are just as democratically competent as adults. They possess the judgment to make their own informed decision. So building all these 3 points, the book made a really nice case, and I believe that is a nice book to read also. Let's go with the second barrier, which is directly related to us adults, how we inherit or learn or health biases and power imbalances, which exclude children from decision making. So adult biases refer to preconceptions, stereotypes, and assumptions that adults hold about children's capabilities, needs, and their roles in decision making. And adults may underestimate children's competence to participate meaningfully in urban planning. They can assume children lack the knowledge, even maturity to contribute, or simply they feel like their position as expert is challenged. So through that, or as a result of those biases and power imbalances, children's ideas are frequently overridden by adult-centric priorities, or children are sometimes included in projects symbolically or just because of the ticking the box induced by the national government to the local government. And their participation often limited to consultation rather than co-creation or leadership roles. And power dynamics favor adults who control resources, platforms like youth councils. And we can understand that through the theory of right to the city. So right to the city is a fundamental right for urban inhabitants, regardless of age, legal status, or background, to participate in, shape, and benefit from cities they live in. And two distinctive rights embedded in the right to the city. And first one is right to difference, that is also referring back to being and becoming. So right to difference is right to resist homogenization and assert one's unique identity, needs, and perspectives within the city. So it gives the position to children to be different, and that difference is accepted. So we know that children are often labeled as incompetent and vulnerable due to adult biases that is limiting their participation. And through right to difference, actually, children are empowered to be recognized as distinct social actors within their own capabilities, static capabilities, perspectives, and contributions. And the other one gives children empowerment as the right to appropriation. This is the right to use, control, and transform urban spaces according to one's need and aspirations. So appropriation reinforces children's role as agents of change, capable of influencing urban policies and designs, even designs of the institutions for them to participate, like youth committees. And this is an experiment that I usually do if I have an audience of policymakers around me, adult policymakers. And I asked them that, not you maybe, but maybe the other adult decision makers would assume about young people's capabilities of participating in urban decision making. And this is one of the results of a quick survey that I did. And one of the theme is always coming back is the unexperienced. Like young people assume that they are unexperienced. But actually, when we talk about cities and city living is based on experience. Technical knowledge comes later on. First, we need to discuss what is the experience living in an urban area, and young people are experienced and capable of talking about their own experience. If we design processes and where all experience are shared, later on the technical knowledge comes on the action. And I would say, based on my learnings from the research, they are also showing a lot of capabilities to propose solutions for the challenges as well that we will be talking later on. And the third layer of barriers are the educational ones. And these barriers that I encountered through a project that included cases from Romania, Netherlands, and Austria. So I would say is like a more European view. One of the things that we found is that schools often lack comprehensive ESD, education for sustainability, sustainable development programs, and that leaving children without the knowledge and skills to engage climate action. And as well as children have limited access to hands-on projects, that is the key, learning and responding, living with climate change. And as well as schools lack platforms for youth participation in sustainability initiatives. And also schools rarely provide platforms for youth-led initiatives, if they have initiatives, but they are led by adults again. And also many educators within those countries are not trained in ESD methodologies. And teachers often lack resources, but that wasn't the case in the Netherlands. I'm going to talk about it later, but they do lack a systematic approach and as well as time because they are overburdened. Last but not least is the barriers that we call psychological barriers. These are the results from an ethnographic study one of my master's students did with Dutch teenagers. And many young people experience climate anxiety. They feel overwhelmed by the scale and the urgency of environmental challenges. And they recognize the importance of local climate adaptation, but often feel powerless to make a difference due to complexity of the issues that they encounter. And the emotional weight of climate change led to disengagement as young people struggle to cope with the feelings of hopelessness or helplessness. And without proper support, climate anxiety can paralyze action rather than inspire it. So in other words, lack of agency due to complex environmental challenges can discourage participation. So I promised that I will be talking about capabilities, and these are the people, including myself at the end, saying that young people are social agents. They help cities address sustainable development challenges. And when they include in the research, they are proper urban researchers, contribute to creating new perspectives on urban environments. And as well as they are problem solvers in the fight against urgent and dramatic challenges facing our planet. So building on those capabilities, one thing help us to understand the young people's evolving capabilities is one of the theory called capability approach. And that capability approach also help us to formulate, help us to come up with a formulation how we can combine what we have and what young people have. So within the capability approach, there are three capabilities. The first one is internal, that we born with. These are personal skills and knowledge that include critical thinking, creativity, social skills. So we know that young people have the skills, capabilities to be able to be part of decision making. So external capabilities, next to the internal capabilities, refer as external condition or enabler by providing necessary environment, such as participatory environment for young people to function. And the third one, combined capabilities, are the internal capabilities, when internal capabilities supported by external conditions to enable young people to exercise freedoms. So when we combine internal and external capabilities, we come up with combined capabilities. That is the target action, actually. So we call it like internal plus external equal combined capabilities. Then we can use it as a formulation. For example, A young person ability to advocate for a park, this is an internal capability, they can do it, depends on policies that recognize their right to participate. This is the external capability. And the institutions that provide platforms for their voice to be heard becomes the final aim through the combination of internal and external capability. So this is a quote from my thesis, and in the rest of the presentation, I will be talking about that specialized methodology. So I read, enabling young people's participation in decision-making requires specialized methodologies and attention to children's unique category, a combination of their actual and potential capabilities powered by their right to the city. So how we know what is the methodology to enable young people's participation. And before going that, because I will be talking about participation activism interchangeably, because participation in life through everyday actions or collective actions are interest of me, and through research I am inspired by my findings. So when I say activism, that could be individual or collective one. And the difference can be understood, again, the Greta example, because Greta started her school strike as an individual activism, but it sparked global collective actions. Now goes Fridays for future action. So scholars highlight that individual actions, such as reducing meat consumptions, can create cultural shifts that enable larger systematic changes, like Greta example. And collective moments amplify individual efforts by creating political pressure and cultural narratives. So there are examples that I placed here. Everyday activism can include practicing zero-waste living, adopting a plant-based diet, like I said, or reducing energy consumption. And that could spark a collective activism, founding or joining climate action groups, or leading climate strikes, participating or organizing protests, even engaging in civil disobedience. So these are the projects that I will be talking. The first one is one of my master's students' project. The other projects that I did when I was doing my postdoc, and the first one present results from individual activism, and the last two more collective activism of young people. So according to the research done by master's students, with the teenagers, Dutch teenagers, age 15 to 16 years old. So that research highlights several individual activism that Dutch teenagers engage in. That includes waste separation, buying secondhand clothes, avoiding food waste, using reusable products, energy conservation, and also supporting the local climate adaptation measures in their community, like urban greening, water management, renewable energy, sustainable infrastructure like permeable pavement or green roofs. So they are well aware of what is happening in their local environment. But they do not engage, or they don't prefer in engaging in organized climate activism. They mostly participate in or prefer community-driven efforts aligned with their own values. And we saw that social norms enforce pro-environmental behavior because they mentioned that their community disapprove unsustainable actions like littering, wasting resources. And they show solidarity with their less privileged neighbors, for example, helping them with sandbags during the floods. So the community and community feeling is highlighted heavily. We asked them what are the barriers behind their more collaborative, collective climate activism. The first thing they mentioned that it is the responsibility of adults and governments to fight against climate change, and they believe that they take actions individually at home. And also they mention negative perception of activism. They associate climate activism with disruptive or extreme actions, like blocking highways, throwing soap on paintings, and they fear being judged or seen as weird. And they also mention time constraints, like they have a busy life, educational life, and they have little time for more collective activism. And they also lack urgency. Dutch teenagers feel protected by existing Dutch climate policies, and they do not perceive immediate threats that reduce their motivation to act. But at the same time, they recognize that climate change is affecting young people heavily in another part of the world. And they also mention some conditions for more being active in climate activism. They appreciate if those activities are organized during the school hours and compensation provided in the form of credit. And those activities organized by the schools should be fun and social that involves the community again. And they also mention that they learn a lot about climate change and sustainability, and they gain environmental awareness at school. And they praise subjects like geography and research-oriented courses valuable about learning climate change and adaptation. And they value hands-on projects like designing sustainable packages, urban greening research. They mention they foster practical understanding. And some schools organize activities, and they find it valuable, like as a primary way to engage within the climate action. So what we can do on the top of what we learn from them. So they do have internal barriers like lack of urgency, fear of judgment, or time constraints. And they do have external barriers like limited opportunities for meaningful participation or negative stereotype of activism that potentially induced by the community and media presentation potentially. So what we can do actually present activism as an accessible, relatable, and non-disruptive action. And that could go and embed within the communities as well. And we can integrate climate education more heavily, so we can expand experience-based, project-based learning to build awareness and agency. And as they ask, we can provide incentives, compensations for their efforts. And we can create safe spaces that organize school-based, peer-led, young people-led activities to lower the barriers to entry and amplify young voices inviting teenagers to decision-making platforms and promote them to foster sense of ownership. And this is the second project that worked with younger kids, 11 to 12, with Dutch kids. And this was mostly an educational project. I collaborated with a teacher in designing this process, and I learned a lot what are the needs of teachers in the Dutch context. So that project aims to activate young people's urban citizenship by involving them in a real world problem solving. And we also embed some educational activities on circularity, which were hands-on activities. And we promote through activities, again, critical thinking about sustainable versus unsustainable consumption. And we encourage teamwork and creativity in designing community action plans. That community action plan was to plan and organize a circular party for their end year event that involves their parents too. So they learn about pluriform society, consumption behaviors, and then based on what they learn, they plan their zero waste party for the end year event. So what they learn and what we learn through their circular thinking in action, they started asking critical questions. For example, do we need this when we plan a party? Do we need balloons or decorations that are plastic that need to be bought and not used again, maybe if we say we can use. But at the same time, by asking, do we need this, they come up with solutions. For example, it was autumn season and a lot of leaves were on the ground, and they started collecting those leaves and they put on the rope and started doing their own decoration, for example. So it becomes, it transformed from linear to circular. And they ask questions, who benefits, who is left out? For example, they start thinking about, instead of buying prepackaged chips for the party as the food serving, they started thinking about who's producing the potato in the local environment that was in Limburg. And they started searching about who's producing potato and how we can find local producers who are producing potato as well as chips in terms of snacks. And how we can do differently. That was another question they asked. And they think that how we can create invitations for our parents. And they decided not to use paper invitation, but digital invitations. So they created their own PDF and sent it to their parents. So they basically apply different reactions within the circularity, which is refuse. For example, they refuse single-use items. They reuse materials like the decorations out of leaves, and they rethink the traditions, like the paper-based invitation. Instead of paper-based invitation, they use digital invitation. So it created a mind shift. And what we can do on the top of this research, we can expand to more schools and mainstream circular education. That what I learned from teachers, actually, they have a lot of tools, but they don't have time and they need help to create a more systematic approach. And that could be an example for them to apply later by themselves. And we can advocate for child-led climate action in education and decision-making. That could be a nice example. And the parent involvement actually gave them more encouragement because they were proud about doing collective actions. This ends up a party that is thrown for their own parents. And the last project that I want to mention is called Circular City Challenge. That was actually a competition-based platform for teenagers, age 14 to 18 years old, to submit their innovative ideas for circular, sustainable features in their local communities. So we aim to educate, empower, and activate young people as ambassadors within their own context. So we created a systematic approach building on the previous project that we know that teachers actually lacking a systematic toolkit that standalone help them without any preparation, easy access, easy guideline. And as a result, we created this guideline of 5 steps approach. And each step has, within the guideline brochure, we do have activities for each steps, the questions to ask, the cases that they can use. And through this systematic approach, young people can easily understand reactions, and they identify root causes of unsustainability. They are encouraged to collaborate because they not only see the unsustainable activities as a standalone activity, but is affected by their community and other actors. And they also develop creative problem-solving skills through the collaboration and induced by different views coming from different stakeholders they encountered during the process. So how Circular City Challenge and its approach can support municipalities? So that could be experimental and low-cost solution for the municipalities to come up with new, fresh ideas, and that can be tested and scaled by young people, and then scaled by the municipalities. And the projects can mobilize local networks because it's encouraged within the structure, and youth-led projects through that competition engage families, schools, and businesses, building a broader support later for municipalities to change policies. And successful youth-led initiatives that is suggested through the competition, like repair cafes, urban gardens, can be replicated citywide. So the concept will be there and created by young people. And the last one is that the submissions that we have seen that provide heavily localized data collected by young people, and that revealed community needs and barriers to sustainability. And young people identify hyper-local issues that can be overlooked by the municipalities. So what we can do, building on what we learned from there, that schools are key actors here. So they can, the local municipalities with schools, they can create partnerships and integrate the systematic approach into their education. And it's like a win-win situation. And small grants can be allocated for these projects. Young people can test it. If the results are good for the community, it can be scaled up. And the next one is the young people can be involved in these initiatives as the leaders, and then the co-design of the policies through the code creation, co-design can be giving extra empowerment. And also those success stories can be showcased and inspire other young people. And this is also one thing that municipalities or local governments can do. And I think these are the things that I wanted to say. I think I'm over time a little bit, right? Sorry. But thanks for your attention, and I will love to hear your opinion.
Yes, thank you. A lot of information. And of course, it's, from the Hansa, we are more practical but so it's nice to just see the other side and appreciate the educational side relating to climate. I had a question about sustainable education. You mentioned that specifically. And what do you think are the best approach, or what are the methods or like a toolbox that you would use to develop a sustainable educational approach to climate adaptation?
We did extensive research within the educational theories, and within that ESD approach, the project-based and challenge-based learning was praised heavily. Because then young people not only learn about the theory, what to do, but they do. And by doing so, they learn more actively. And I think it was heavily highlighted that that will affect them continue doing and continue applying what they learn in their own life, even in professional life. So there were longitudinal studies showing that what they learn stays with them through project-based and competition, challenge-based learning.
Yeah. Then you must come visit us at the Climate in Flores, because it's a really great experience for people to see from a practical perspective. Flores is always flooding a bioswale and explaining how infiltration capacities work and how that relates to water circularity and the water cycle and pollution. And it's a whole course, really, I would say. So that's already being done. So it's nice to know that is actually part of a sustainable educational approach as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think we do a lot, but hearing this, not enough, of course. But before maybe I go on, maybe Joe, perspective from the UK, would that be nice? And I'm actually thinking this will be exactly nice topic for young people to address, maybe highway pollution, but it was in my mind. Just want to drop it. Maybe you want to say something about this?
Yeah, I've just a couple of the thing that made me smile was when they say they haven't got enough time, and I love it when young people think they haven't got enough time to do things, and I just hope that when they're older and they've got really busy lives, they look back and think, crikey, I hadn't got any time then. The other thing that crossed my mind was if we advocate for young people to vote, which I support, because they then will influence policies that will affect their lives, whether on the flip side of that you should consider removing the vote from really old people, because any policy changes that they affect through their voting actually won't be around to feel the changes that they voted for. I think I'm famous for making trouble, and my response would be take the vote off people over the age of 80, because they won't be around to see the effects of the changes that they vote for. But perhaps that's too contentious. But my problem in England is that young people from the age of 16 to 18 aren't allowed to work full time, and they're not allowed to work just go to work like we did when we were 16. They have to either be an apprenticeship or an education, and that's tricky then, isn't it, for them to. You talked about lack of experience, and it's hard for them to get that experience if we won't allow them into the workplace. So there's loads of stuff that needs to change to make life better for young people, and I support what you're suggesting. I think the more experience, more education, and is great, but it's so tough. There's so many things that we want to teach them. There's no we want to teach them about climate change. We want to teach them about urban planning. We want to teach them about so many things. It's knowing how to prioritize, I guess, isn't it?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's an interesting radical imagination, revoking the voting right from the people over 80. That haven't crossed my mind before, but that's
it would just shift it. It would shift
yeah,
the
demographic.
demographic.
Yeah, definitely.
Nice. And Sietske, have you worked with young people in your career in the region? Because I follow up on the thing that we it's a regional thing as well. Oh,
not in my office, but now I'm participating in an organization with families, and what we want is that the young people, and what they also want is to grow around the building some vegetables or strawberries or flowers, and also building we call this an insect hotel.
Oh, nice.
Something like that. So
Yeah.
nice. Yeah. Well, they're all actions that young people that participate. Yeah, I was just making a list of what we actually do, because it's always good to look at yourself. And we do a bit, well, Gina projects with Charney, of course, is targeting young people. Also the climate cafes with Sydney. We started really with, it's older young youth, but still helping them out, right? Giving them a voice. Already presenting their internship reports and stuff like that. And I really feel we also had Jong Res. Wouter van Galien was one, so that's specifically targeted at mitigation. That was one. Yeah, the Technasium, 500 kids went to the Hanze. That was great, and they could walk around the field lab and stuff. But still, I think we could do more. I mean, and you're also from the Rug. You did theoretical science behind it. I think we're just bursting into flooding, as Charney said. The kids love it, but it could be more, I don't know, structural, or because from a regional perspective, I totally agree with that. Would you know of Gemeente Groningen, for example? Do they have partnerships with schools, and is that something we could help out, or because I see the barriers of kids that they maybe don't have time, or they're not being rewarded, as you say. And I remember that the climate cafes in the field, so going to all parts of the world, and they didn't get any credits. We arranged that now, that they actually get credits for school actually participating. I mean, that helps. That tackles the time as well. But these are older kids, right? So would there be any practical things that we could do together as what are your thoughts? What could we do?
Yeah, I can say some things supported by the theory again. The first thing that is commonly discussed, that we need to approach young people in their familiar spaces that usually refer to their own classroom, because they are relaxed with their peers, with their teacher. When they have them outside of this familiar and comfortable space, for example, putting them in a focus group discussion in the municipality with a lot of unfamiliar faces, and sometimes those faces and persons, individual, don't know how to speak to young people, don't know how to refer to them. That creates tensions, and then it is becoming non-ethical sometimes. That is voicing down young people, and sometimes that they are alienated, and sometimes they see authority in front of them and they don't want to talk. So the first start is to go where they are. So we can, as the practitioners and the researchers, we can go to their own context and connect with them. And how to connect with them can be another question. Creating activities or projects not only designed by us but with them. Then it could be becoming something that is relatable to them. If we decide what is the question, what is the problem, what is the challenge or issue there, then we are inducing what we think about their own experience or context. Then we need to start from zero. If it is a research start, zero means even the contextual research, background info collection, and designing the research question with them, starting from the zero, and then the solution also like the addressing the problem solution phase with them. And the other one is always lacking and highlighted by the theory, lacking in the practice and highlighted in the theory, that when we do those consultation, if it is a consultation, if it is co-design, it is co-design. When we do, and after that, we are not returning back to them again in the form of going back and informing, hey, these are the understanding we got through the conversation that we have with you, and what we're going to do with it, this is it. And giving the output back to their attention. And this is mostly highlighted within the ethical processes, that this is our duty to go back and inform them what happened with the knowledge, information that we collected with and together with them. So this is another thing that we should be doing when we engage with them. And in terms of activities and how we create, for example, as far as I know, that we have the child mayor in Groningen.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But I'm lacking knowledge. What are the jurisdiction of that mayor, that child mayor can do or can't do? So, for example, in Istanbul, I also did research in Istanbul, in Turkey. We don't have a child mayor. We do have, I believe, in the regional level in Groningen, we do have the youth committees, child committees. Again, I don't know their jurisdiction, but I can easily can say that the child committees or youth committees in Istanbul, in the metropolitan municipality, don't have any jurisdiction. It's within the policy making, it's listed as advice. So it's again up to the adult policymakers to act upon it or not. So we can't say that it is institutionalized. The young people's participation and their power to affect decision making is not institutionalized.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you have that in the Netherlands also with the water board. So a young dijkgraaf, young mayor, also climate ambassadors. We had that in the region of Groningen. That was quite exceptional, I would think. So every municipality within the province of Groningen had actually a young advisor, indeed, with no. So what about Nijmegen, Sydney? What is Nijmegen doing with young kids? It needs
Well,
partnerships.
I was thinking we actually did some things with young kids this year, but then just activities, play activities, getting to know them about climate change, adaptation mostly. And we coupled it to a sports event. And what I was actually wondering is that how are these project-based initiatives and these challenges organized? Because what I noticed is that the schools are quite eager actually to have like different activities for the kids. They have the same problem, like they don't have time to do everything themselves, and they're looking to outside organizations because they're really specialized subjects, and they have to teach a lot of things already. And for them it was, well, not a day off, but they can sit back a bit. In this case, the municipality, the water board, the Nature Education Center of Nijmegen organized everything together with the sports event managers, and we approached all these schools and stuff. And I was like, oh, we're actually kind of lacking these connections to organizations that can do this more on the topic of climate change and climate adaptation. And I noticed that the municipalities have a really big role in this because they provide some finance, they provide people and knowledge, and they have a network. So I was wondering if how approachable is this, and how do municipalities make use of this?
I can easily talk about from the teacher side. I my findings and my observations align what Sydney said. Teachers and schools are open to include that external projects in their own learning, because mainly teachers have the right to design their own curriculum. So they are flexible in that regard and they can include. And when there is a request coming from a researcher or municipality, I assume, they will love collaboration with them, helping them to help some burden out because they are busy. So they welcome external collaborators, people who can spend time with them within the organization, planning an organization, the event or activity, whatever they are planning. And they welcome different tools in their own education. This is exactly aligning what Sydney said. From the municipality side, we, for example, the Circular City Challenge that we did in Maastricht, and if I remember correctly, we try to connect with them through some channels. But what Sydney said, that they have the money. If they have the vision, I'm not saying for the municipality of Maastricht, but in any municipality, if they have the vision to include young people in those discussions, that budget can be created, and that will help schools to go with those kind of external events. So this is one thing that municipalities can do. And if I compare the Dutch education system or the flexibility of teachers to another context, for example, Turkey. For example, in Turkey, Turkish teachers don't have that flexibility and design right to design their own curriculum. So this creates extra barrier to have those kind of external people and projects in. So in that regard, Dutch context has a good system. And as I learned, and Sydney said, that there's possibilities to do more.
Yeah, we should. Right, thank you.
Yes, very interesting, and it all sounds very much like a climate cafe to me. So I will invite you to one of the upcoming climate cafes, and you can see what's being done from the Hansa side.
Nice. That would be perfect to work together indeed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably go to a closing because it's quite over time. So that's a compliment to you, of course. And then what are we going to do next week, Shernay? Also,
Well,
de rug,
yeah.
Rijksuniversiteit. Yeah.
Yes, we have Etikam Turhan next week, and he's going to be telling us about his research. He's also recently published a book, right? Özlem, you can maybe fill me in there, because I know he's quite busy and he's all over the world and doing presentations and quite active in climate adaptation research as well. So we'll be hearing from him next week.
Yeah, he also has a new project. Maybe he would be talking about this too. Is a collaboration between different universities within the Enlight community.
Yes.
So it will be part of his research, hopefully, and I will be there as an audience.
Okay, great. We look forward to seeing you again next week. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
Thank
have
you.
a great evening then. See you
Yes.
next week.
Yeah.
You too.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank
All right.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.